Lama Lhanang Rinpoche is a teacher and meditation master in the Nyingma lineage. He was born in Amdo, northeast Tibet. As a child, Rinpoche entered the Tubten Chokor Ling Monastery under the guidance of his root teacher, or again, Kusum Lingpa. The Sang Long Monastery in eastern Tibet recognized Rinpoche as the rebirth of Ken Rinpoche Damcho, one of the 25 disciples of Padmasambhava, who is known as the second Buddha who lived in the 8th century. Rinpoche has received teachings from teachers of the different schools and lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And finally, Rinpoche is an accomplished instructor of Anu Yoga, highly skilled painter, teacher of Feng Shui, and a skillful practitioner of Tibetan medicine. He's the spiritual leader of Jigme Lingpa Center in San Diego, whose mission is world peace through inner peace. And finally, Lama Lhanang Rinpoche is my teacher. Welcome, Tashi Delek, to the podcast. It's Not What You Think.
Tashi Delek. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me. How was your week so far?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's beautiful weather. Everything's wonderful here.
Good. It looks beautiful where you are. So when you were a child in Tibet, I understand that several high lamas saw something in you, and they were fighting over you or negotiating with your dad, with your father, to join each of their monasteries, kind of like being recruited for a big baseball team in the United States. Can you tell us what you remember from that time and how you came to be in the monastery?
Yes. So when I was 9 years old, I was chosen by a very, very, very famous holy man. He's Mahasiddha. He has a gift of power of healing. Also, he can kill something and return life back. And this kind of gift he has. And he's nearby my village. And one day we have a big gathering with my father. So we went that gathering. I'm curious to, 9-year-old, just follow father, just go there. And he is really serious. These teachers, they don't smile. He's always like a madman, like very focused. And he comes, he looked me, and he grabbed my hair. I have long hair. He says, "You have to go to monastery. You're a good boy. Are you going to monastery?" And I don't know what to say. I just I don't know. That was my answer. And he said, "Who knows?" And my father knows. Then he yells and calls my father. My father comes, and he's like, he looking my father. He's like, "I think you are a good boy. One day he's going to have many people. You should send him to monastery." And my father said, "You think it's a good idea?" He just kind of, And then he's like, "I think it's a good idea, but you want to keep him with your yaks, you can keep it." Then my father like, okay. My father kind of scared, and he's like, "Oh, maybe, this holy man told something. It's very special." So right away, my father said, "Okay, I will talk with my wife, and we will." Then he looked over to my father. He said, "Your wife is your boss? It's a poor man." So from there I start, and he was this monastery he wants to send me, and also and then so ready for teachers, and everything was kind of ready, and because he's kind of choose me. And during that time, and my father is friends with His Holiness Kusum Longpa, and they're good friends. So and somewhere they meet, and Kusum Longpa said, "What news? How's your family?" And my father said, "Oh, my son is chosen by this holy man, but he's going to send this monastery, and so I just have to kind of preparing this, doing this." He said, "I want your son to me, and you have to send to me. I have to take care of him. If you don't send your son to me, then you are not my friends.
Wow.
So then my parents were very worried, like what we do now is two holy lamas kind of be twins. So, but Holiness Kusum Longpa's monastery has my uncle, my mother's brother. So, and then it was like, oh, it's good ideas. They get ideas. Then went to this holy man and say, you know, we have idea to send another monastery. And there's his uncle, so he's going to teach him and take care. And then His Holiness, okay. The holy man said, yeah, you can do that. So that was the story. And then I went to the monastery of Kusum Longpa. Then first, who teaches me like in Tibetan level is like Kakakanga, is like ABC level in English.
Right, sure.
Was by Kusum Longpa. So, and then he teaches me how to read in 6 pados. So that was the way I started writing and reading, and then I studied dharmas with Kusum Longpa.
So you actually studied with Kusum Lingpa for a long time. I mean, at least, I would think 15, 20 years.
So yes, I think it's just all the way from there to His Holiness passed away. And after that, it's always I connected. And also, I feel today, and I connect with him, my dreams and my meditation. And always I feel like his guidance is not separate. It's just always there. Some things I'm lost or unclear, then I just sort of connected with him meditating. Then I found a kind of clarity and decisions more clear.
So you went to the monastery. You were 9 or 10 years old. What was life like at the monastery? You didn't have your mother or your father there. Did you miss them? Were the lamas kind to you? Were they mean? What was it like living or growing up in the monastery?
I'm always kind of child, just sort of, okay, whenever my parents says, just kind of blame everything to the parents. So then they decide and they send to me and monastery. So then, in the beginning, of course, you miss your childhood friends and your mother's food. I'm always kind of loyal and very strong connections with mom. So, but then you're used to it. Then it's like so beautiful, everything is very simple. It's just kind of, the monastery is the best place. If you understand, the best place to have a peace, all everyday learning dharma, which is wisdom, and then meditation, all these about all about this. So for me, it was just maybe say a couple months was a little bit of missing home and friends, but then take on, and also I like to talk, make friends. So start everything there. Everything was wonderful, actually.
Did they teach any courses like science or history, or was it strictly related to the Dharma and meditation and that lineage?
And the most of the time is that of course the lineage and the studies of the inner those yoga tantras, 3 yoga tantras, and start with that, and the yogic path and the Mantayana. But me, I was also doing the monastery trainings. I have privilege to kind of study about kind of just major science, minor science in Tibetan knowledge, which is Tibetan medicine, and also Tibetan astrology, and also sometime also I study with this old Lama with the Tibetan Feng Shui as well. So I have sort of connections with those kind of some major science, minor science of Tibetan tradition and everyday living.
Wow. So you're very lucky to get not just the Dharma and Mantrayana, but all these other topics because, not everyone studies Tibetan medicine and astrology and feng shui. So you really got, you know, an outstanding education.
Yes, but in my monastery, I never learned how to debate, but I understand the philosophy and I'm a kind of good answer. So but we don't have that training.
Right. Isn't that primarily the Gelugpa school that does the debating as opposed to the other schools?
In Tibet, it started in actually India. India is because of the Hindus and Buddhist and also different traditions sort of they use the logic and the debate to sort of who's right, and they kind of have to follow the who is the winners. That's why those like Nagarjuna and those Buddhist scholars they started the Tibetan philosophy, which is a logic. And but in Tibet we have, of course, this debate, but really no use much because we just debated to practice the mind and logic, but
Right.
that's about, no?
So after you left the monastery, is that when you became a wandering monk where you were, went out without no money and just try to survive and practice the Dharma?
Oh, yes, I was many months in pilgriming in China, some holy places in China, and also many holy places in Tibet. I have sometimes just only my backpack, a little tent. Then in some areas you have to bake just sort of food, and most time only I have samba in hot water. Just I make hot water and live in a caves like 100 days. Only I have samba and water. That's two things. And but that's the kind of best times in my life. It's kind of my senses clear. It's really you don't yearning anything, so you don't want anything. Just sort of your mind is just fully joy.
Hmm.
Today I live in America. I have everything in technology, kind of connections, everything, but always constantly think about something. So it's
Welcome,
different.
right. Welcome to samsara in America, right? So for many years, you would just spend on retreat in various caves and meditate and just and just live off the land.
Yes, definitely I can say that. And I carry in my backpack and many years walk and programming. And some people say like, oh, you are like a Malaripa. But, you know, I don't have that kind of dedication, but I was many years kind of enjoy the living and programming and living in the caves
Hmm.
and baking food and just like a beggar, it's like a homeless. We see that kind of life. It's was a wonderful times.
Hmm. Now, at some point, you were invited to be the abbot of of one or more of the monasteries there, and you decided you don't want to do that type of life.
Yeah, and actually, few monasteries, three monasteries, one monastery was recognized and throned, and then in others, two monastery also they wanted to offer their monastery in be the charge sort of. But I really like my freedom, and if you are charge of the monastery, then you have the sample for all the monks in the monastery and communities. You have to be really behave so different way, talk different way. So I like my freedom, and also I really kind of when that times I don't like any responsibilities, and I told them I said no, please, and but anyway they gave me sort of the in Tibetan, you know, the monasteries, they recognize you or something, they give you hat, and inside of the writings letters why they give you. So they give me that. I told them, said, no, I don't need this. Please don't give me. But they said, this is a good omen. And don't tell, no, it's this you have to accept. I said, okay, I accept that, but I'm not the charge of anything. So leave me alone. So that's the way I just kind of start.
So you took the hat, said thank you, and no thank you. So what motivated you to come to the United States? How did that happen?
Actually, I don't want to come to America. Really, I don't. And but I say, really, my karma. So I was in India and in Nepal. In India, I'm also have chance to went to the Molam in a big gathering for the Nyingma Molam. Is all the Nyingma Lamas. There be few thousand monks, nuns. They're praying 10 days, 10 doing the aspiration prayers. So for the peace, world peace, in during that time, this Tarthang Rinpoche, and Tarthang Rinpoche, he has in America Nyingma Institute and Dharma Publishing and in Berkeley, and Oriana Monastery in Casdero in Santa Rosa. So he was there, and he's invited to group some lamas. So, and he asked me to, he want to invite me to America. And then I said, no, I don't want to go America because I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, blah, 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 you know. But then I went to Nepal and with some Tibetan families living in Nepal and some friends and Tibetans. They all think I'm crazy because you see somebody invite you to U.S. It's like everybody's dreaming to want to go to America.
Right.
And you got an invitation. Why you reject that? That's the lifetime opportunity. All started talking this. Then I changed my mind. Then I talked to Tarthang Rinpoche, see you again. And then he's like, are you mind? You want to go to America? I said, yes, but I don't have money, blah, blah, you know, those kind of, he said, don't worry, we take care from here. And my lawyer's here, we're going to make it papers. And so that was the start. So that's why I am in the U.S.
So when you came here for the first time, I mean, did they teach you any English in the monastery, or did you just start, because your English is impeccable, did you just learn English when you came to the United States?
I don't speak one word. First time I've been in an aeroplane, and I have to start as with the yes and no, and that's the way I start. It's a few years, I say 2-3 years, I have a very hard time because different culture. You see, you first come to Hollywood in Venice Beach, you see the other people, different tattoos and different dress, different colors, all kinds of cultural shock because somebody grew up in the monastery in the mountains and suddenly come to cities, Los Angeles or just kind of Berkeley and Telegraph. So it's kind of cultural shock, but it's the same time it's okay. So you can hear the noises, okay?
I hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. So yeah, it's a hard time, but and a couple years later, it's not the problems as American. It's a problem is me because I'm the one kind of don't like. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like. Then everything you don't like, they all bothers you. But then I realized it's to accept everything. Then there's no problem. Everything was excellent.
Wow. So what did you see about the culture that I mean, because you're right. You're going on one hand, you're living in the caves of Nepal for years and years, and then after, and then a couple of years later, you're in Berkeley, in California. It's crazy. I mean, were you like you said, it was culture shock. What were you thinking? Oh my God, these people are Americans, or it's insane.
First of all, I was just wanted to go back, and that was my first the choice. So, but then also same time, I want to maybe do work, just work, maybe working in a restaurant or do something. I first, of course, 1 year I working in the Oriana in Tibetan Rinpoche's place, was painting the statues and filling up the statues and building the monastery there. But then we finished, then was very kind of don't know what to do. But one of my teachers, Chinli Norbu Rinpoche, maybe he's the son of Dunjom Rinpoche, and I was talking to him, and he said, he said, what you doing? I said, I live in America, but I don't like everything bothers me, and I don't know how to do. Maybe need to go back. He said, already you're here. That's your mission. Don't go back. Then I said, okay, I have to work, but maybe restaurant or cutting some veggies or something. He's like, never do that. He said, teach Dharma. And I said, I don't know the language. He said, teach some mantras. So now then I started teaching classes of art class, Tibetan drawing class. Then everything starts. First my class was maybe 20 people, so and maybe 10 people stays long time. So kind of that way I started living in US.
So you started teaching Americans first because he told you to, because other than that, you were going to go work in a restaurant or go back to India or back to Tibet. So he told you to do that and said, hey, you're here already. You might as well do that.
Yes.
Wow. So, and then at that point you said, okay, did you like it? Did you like teaching to Americans? Was it satisfying for you? Was it frustrating?
I really like because you see, America is they don't really judge you much. You kind of if you don't know the language, they maybe try to teach you, and
Right.
also teach artists. You don't need to talk a lot. Just you can start drawing, and they follow the how to draw. And some people drive in a couple hours where they come into classes, and and so I was really enjoyed.
Good. Wow. We're lucky. We're the lucky ones. Your sangha are the lucky ones that you stayed, of course. So I don't know if you remember this, but 3 years ago, which is when I first met you, you were teaching a healing practice in Encinitas, California, and I had volunteered to help set up the room. And there were like 50 people there, and someone said, "Hey, can you set up the microphone?" I didn't know how to do that, but I set up the microphone. And then someone said, "Hey, Lama needs a light. Can you bring this lamp over to Lama?" So I bring this lamp over to you, and you were sitting there waiting for the healing practice to begin. And we're about to place the lamp down, and you look up like this, and the top of the lamp was spinning around and was about to fall on your head. But all you did was just go like this and kind of signaling me, hey, there's a problem here. And of course, I immediately froze. And I mean, now, now it's funny, but at the time I was like, okay, karma can't be that good if you drop a lamp on the head of your spiritual teacher. So, so many of your long-time students have shared with me stories of how you were able to heal them or help them using city powers. Can you describe what city powers are? And I know sometimes lamas don't like to talk about that.
The gift is always there. You see, doesn't matter me or you or anybody, but how you see it and how you use it. And sort of, I have intuitions. Can sometimes, like early things, I can feel sometimes feelings, but I don't want to try to judge that, because there's myself is honestly, I have two things. Two things means some things I know before happens, like sort of, oh wow, that's I know so clearly. And myself, like sort of wow. And also a lot of people say, wow, you told me. I said, oh yeah, but some things that I feel, if I'm thinking I know, also sometimes wrong, because you see, it's one is naturally you understand, but the one is you judging. You think you know and you kind of guessing. You see, that's why I always kind of in which one is which one. And then the healings are like a sort of medicinal kind of healings, and also I practice the healing studies of Tibetan medicine and how things work in things, but and I do healings like a sort of there's automatically sort of I have this kind of gift, and many times if I put my hands or do something, I really see it changes many people's lives. So already I have that.
It's, from a Western perspective, it's quite amazing and quite beautiful. I've known of some masters that were able to change the weather as well. I don't know how that works, but I would assume somehow you're able to get in touch with a higher power and make that connection. Is that can you speak about that?
Yes, and definitely the weather. I was actually study about how to dealing with the weather, and I was young and I want to experimenting a lot of things. So, and then also when I was young, I tried to dealing with the weather, and I feel I can control weather I can stop rain or snowing, or I can stop strong winds or some certain things. I feel that, and I'm lucky. Always kind of work that way. Many times, even though my villages sometimes ask me, say, "Can you help us to these few days? We have to do something." So stop rains. But my teacher, Kapsam Lomba, said, never do that, because and there's a karma in this is also there's a rain or winds. That's also some kind of business, the of the spirit. Like for example, there's a tornado or something comes, destroys trees and the things. Actually, looks like the wind destroy, but there's some spirit to take those things and kind of invisible world, or kind of there's energetically there's a lot of things happening in this world. So that's why and he said you don't want to stop the spirit's business. Maybe there's storm or some bad weather, maybe even the people die, many animals die or something happens, but that means also this spirit world taking somehow their business. Like a coronavirus is also this one spirit, uh, his business, you see, and so that's why everything has this kind of connections with the spirit world. So that's why my teacher told me, and I promised to not do that. Try.
So I think he's saying, hey, this is the karma, and you're going to be interrupting and disrupting that
Yes.
karma. So better not to do that.
Not Exactly. He said,
Right.
there's a reason to this weather bad. There's a reason to storm. There's a reason to rain. So he said, don't try to stop, because that's also, there's many lives involving. There's many spirits, energy, lot of things involving. And just what we see and behind there is a lot of things, karma involving. So he's like, that's not good to do these things.
Interesting. So I know in 2011, I had read that you had an experience with the wisdom Dakini Mandarava. It's in one of the prayer books that we use. Can you share with us what that was like?
That was actually, I went to His Holiness Dalai Lama's teachings in Bodh Gaya. And then afterwards, I went to in Nepal, in the Parpan, there's Padmasambhava's cave of Vajrakalaya. I did there about 20 days retreat, and there, and then also I went to Bhutan and the Tiger's Nest. I went to there 10 days retreat there. In the Bhutanese, the royal family gives me permission to stay there, because otherwise you can't stay. Then the soldiers cook for me. And then later I have chance to go to the Marataka. Marataka is where in Padmasambhava and the Dakini Mandarawa, they did the retreat and they achieve the immortality, a cave for the longevity. So I just always wanted to go there, and actually I went there, and suddenly I kind of entrance of the cave, like the huge kind of area, and everything kind of transforms, and then I feel I see Padmasambhava, I see Mandarawa, and I didn't prepare to write something, but then suddenly I wanted to write this sadhana, and through the my vision, I just sort of my meditation state. Then I just wrote this sadhana, and I feel these sadhanas for in these times, for this degenerate time, for the people really need this balance and abundance in their hearts, and also they need this healing and longevity, and that's I feel.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's beautiful what you wrote. Um, so thank you. So getting back to the United States, so you're married to a spiritually wonderful woman with a beautiful child. How did you meet your wife in the United States? Tibetan wife, of course.
Um, through the her brother, actually, he is uh, my friend long time, so we know each other. Then he was invited me like lunch, so we went to eating together. Then also he's like, oh, my sister just come about a few months ago, so she's here, and so and then I meet it. And I'm a really picky person, you see. I always sort of what I want, I have to be clear, sort of kind of. Then I saw her, I was like, that's it. I found my partner. So, and from there, I want to talk to her. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, okay, must be best way Facebook. You see, Facebook. So I was like, Dr. Lawson, you have your Facebook. Can you give me? Because I know then if he gave me his Facebook, then he's friends with his sister. So
Right, right.
that way I can talk into her, right? But he said, no, I did never open Facebook. I don't have Facebook. But then somehow I can got her phone number and then
Good. Wow. Well
start.
said. We're both very lucky that you met her. So I understand you met Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton. What was that like?
Actually, I have a funny story. When I was a little a little boy, my first name was White Boy, you see, White Boy. So then also I have very weird hair. My hair always kind of goes up and kind of more raroshi kind of color when I was a little boy. My one of grandpas called me as American boy, you see, and even though I tease him because in many years ago he was alive, he's like, "Don't stay in America. You have to come back and stay with us. We need you, and you need us. We are need community." I told him, I said, you tease me, you are calling me American boy. Now I'm really American. So he's like, don't mention this, don't. But anyway, uh, the story goes, when I was like, I don't know, maybe even though 4, I really first the President Nixon was in China. I think
Right.
80s, no, 80 or something like 80s, 1980s. So um, in that was the first American president visit in China. So and that picture of the president Nixon and Mao Zedong is the president of China. So they're holding hands. That picture was all the Chinese newspapers, the cover.
Right.
So and I saw that. Then I don't know. This instant comes me, and I'm 4 years old, little boy. He's, I think, in American ways, I maybe 3. I said, I want to meet American president. My father was laughing. He said, "All right, you meet." Uh, and then when I was chance to these people invite me to White House in many years ago. That time is Bill Clinton and White House tour. Then I have chance to meet Clinton, and when I hold his hands, I remember when I was 3 or 4 years old.
So you predicted the future even when you were 3 years old.
What you wish. Sometimes careful.
That's true. That's funny. So, so now, as a result of where Tibet is located, the Tibetan culture developed in isolation from the rest of the world, and it's very unique culture, very spiritual. What can we as Westerners or Americans learn from the Tibetan culture?
Our culture is kind of culture. You see, in Tibetan culture is kind of unique about Tibetan art is very famous, and also you can see the details in colors because when the Tibetan art was started, many countries together. So, and that's the reason it's like in the Tibetan art is extraordinary. And then Tibetan medicine is, I think, is a very, very important to know because they have really a relatively experience everything with the nature. So you can really rejoice with that. But and then also, kind of very rich food and kind of Tibetans, they like singing a lot, in dancing a lot, that kind of culture. But culture is culture. But if really somebody wants to learn it, it's Tibetan Buddha Dharma, which is, I think, is very unique and very rich. You want to be learning as scholarly as like a professor to intellectual? Yes, there is a lot of traditions, which is there's a lot of sutras and tantras, and you can learn it about relative truth to absolute truth. And also, you want to just sort of rituals. There's so many rituals, practice for healing, and the purpose of rituals work with the spirit, and so on and so forth. And also, there's um, secret esoteric teachings are very high levels of yoga and meditation. So that's, I think, if anybody really want to know, is the best thing is Buddha Dharma.
So it's 12 or 1300 years of really of Buddhism that grew in this very isolated, unique, beautiful culture on the top of the world. And I know for several years you've been, you've really been talking about the need for a Jigme Lingpa, which is the name of the San Diego center that you lead, to have its own physical building, its own location, its own center for your students to offer classes, to really put on display the Tibetan culture and all that it has to offer. Can you talk a little bit more about your vision or your dream for that kind of Jigme Lingpa Center?
Yes, not just only for our students, but I think it's very good for locally and for the city, for long range and short ranges in future generations. Because you see, in the different special traditions and the wisdom knowledge is very rich in America. You see what you want to learn and there's you have freedom to choose religion, freedom to choose culture. In everything is kind of available, but it's not a deep. So that's why if you wanted to deeper, they need a physical place to really build into the people's lives. And that's why it's important to physical place. And then also in locally people can work there. In city people also, at least Saturday and Sunday, they want to get away from home and away from job and just go place to do meditation, yoga, and just recharge and relax, and they go back to work. And I just want really this kind. Then also, as somebody really wants to study deeper Tibetan Buddha Dharma and Tibetan wisdom in the culture, then we need a place to invite some some lamas, real scholars, not just intellectual, but somebody really practice and live with it. In those kind of people can invite, then we can share to the community and share to our sangha. I think it's very important. Then also our people's mind is kind of fickle. Sometimes we kind of really kind of exciting something like, oh, I want to really this. Then slowly we lose it. But if we have a place, then we always like when you have this kind of mind, like, oh, I want to go to the center. I just go to the temple, okay? Then also renews everything, kind of recharges for the practitioners in the Sangha is always a place to support them. And also Sangha support them, the place. And the place support Sangha, Sangha support the place. And this work is benefit future generations. And you in me is life is short, time is fly. We never know how many years we can live in, but and we left a place, then the future generations and the many centuries maybe benefit in place to meditate and really practice peace, not just talk about peace or just ideas of peace. Really place have a peace so anybody can go, anybody can learn.
Yeah, thank you. So, as you know, I share the same dream that you do, and many of your students share that dream as well, which is an opportunity to go somewhere where you can take refuge. Not just take refuge as, oh, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, but also you can really take refuge because you're going to be supported there with your energy, with the teachings, with all these programs, not just for your students, but for the entire community in San Diego, community throughout the United States, community throughout the world. Because now that we have Zoom, you can be offering classes to anyone, anywhere in the world. So we share that dream with you, and of course, we're going to make that come true. Now, I know that the Dalai Lama also, I know one of your desires is to have a peace garden as part of that. And I know that the Dalai Lama has already provided the name for that. How were you able to achieve that, that connection with the Dalai Lama? Names the peace garden, then of course that would come together with the physical structure that would fulfill that dream.
My dream and vision of the peace garden is a place garden for 12 gardens, which is the one is for gardens for the mothers, like we can put a Kuan Yin, Mary, or kind of motherly, feminine garden. And one garden is for non-religious, like what you call those kind of people. They don't believe any religion.
Secular
garden. And other 10 is a major 10 religions gardens. If you are Jewish, you have Jewish garden. You can do weddings, you can do rituals, and also you can do decorated everything kind of Jewish style. Or you have native garden, Native American style teepees, and to have Tamascal, to also the native tradition. In that kind of being a center, have a meeting place, like have kind of theater like, which is a place the musicians or speakers of the peacemakers, they can do performing music for world peace. And also, if my dream come true, once a year we'll have peace conference for the world. And anybody wants to have a peace. We all love the peace. Say, oh, we want peace, peace. But if we just talking is not enough, we have to start somewhere. Then anybody loves peace, they can join together. Say, okay, I have this idea. Have peace conference and hold in that place. That's kind of I'm doing also called which is called the celebration of awakening, which is I invite to the different religious like rabbis and amens, those kind of ministers. They all say everybody says, oh, my religious best. That's kind of way they think. If you're best, you have to do best things. And we all religious people come together, we can work together a peace. As what is important to communicate to each other and really work with the peace. Not say, okay, my religion is better and this is better. My God is more real than your God is not. We don't need that. And who's real or not, then we have to start the work. Then I think that's the kind of vision I have. And that's why my friend, this Geshe, and he's very close to Dalai Lama. He asked His Holiness, and His Holiness gives Garden of Compassion.
Beautiful.
So he's named it. And in that is also here. And then also I bought some traditional Tibetan statues from Tibet. Tibetan artists made it. And also I have in different things to kind of for the future generations and the shape Tibetan culture. So I have too many ideas, and so it's okay. I think it's just enough.
Well, it's a beautiful dream, and we're going to do everything we can to make that dream come true. So, as you know, we live in very stressful times now, whether it's politics or the pandemic. For both Buddhists, non-Buddhists who might be watching this podcast, what advice can you give them so that they don't get swept up in the chaos that seems to be all around us now? What would you say to those folks?
I say it's really politics. It's very bad in U.S. honestly, it's right now is your left or right. Just kind of there's no middle ground in the. It's not good for this country and not good for future generations. That is obvious. But what I want to say is, I think it's good to be what you believe. You can support that verbally, mentally. If you want to be donate to the what you believe, that's what they call the freedom. But maybe you never had different ideas. It's okay. You say, "Oh, I'm Democrat," or you never says, "I'm Republican. I'm support this group." I think that's what we have to happy say. Okay, good. This is about American freedom. You see, or you can't do it. Only the my way is the highway. That's just, I think is very wrong. And also, I say, don't upset. Don't be angry. Anger and upset is hurting yourself, hurting your family, hurting your community, and it's not good for in this time. It's really important to any situation crash in our life. It's very important to relax into why. What is the best you can do? Do your that without hesitating. Do it, but don't hurt others or don't argue or upset with others, because in America it's unique. Everybody has different visions, and also it's this not communist country. Communist country is only this the way is you have to you like or not. You have to just go with that. No, and here is America. We have freedom speech, and somebody says something you don't like. That's okay. That's not you. You see, and you also listen. Sometimes listen, and you may learn some things too. So because there's good people, both parties. Bad people, both parties. So that's why you don't want to lose yourself. You have to be very important to live with the peace and harmonious in yourself and your family. And from there, what you want to do your best. But no regrets, no upset.
Thank you for that teaching very much. So many, many thanks for taking the time out today from your day to share your life with us. I know I speak for all of your students when I say may you have a long, firm life like banners of victory.
Thank you very much. Anytime I'm here, and anything I do, if it's something we think is benefit, I don't have any hesitant. I will do it. And that's the me. And anything I say or anything I'm doing, you think is this not something benefit the future generations or others? Please tell me in the future. Remind me, because you see, I'm also living in samsara, so there's sidetracks.
I don't think you get sidetracked, but Lama, thank you so much. It's good to see you as always.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
stay
you,
well.
and
Thank
have
you.
nice afternoon.
Thank you, Lama. Be well. I hope you enjoyed our talk with Lama Lhanang. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the It's Not What You Think podcast. That really helps us to continue to produce these episodes and invite other guests from around the world. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or would like to hear any specific guests on the podcast, please share my email, mortylevine@gmail.com, or visit mortylevine.com. Remember, it's not what you think.